Hi, everybody. This is Marcelle Epley. I'm the president and CEO of the Long Beach Community Foundation. I'm so glad you joined us all today, and I'm here joined with my colleague, Greg Burnight. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Marcelle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Just fine, thanks.
Good. You might be on this webinar today because you're an estate planning attorney or a CPA or a financial advisor, or you're just an individual learning to how you can include charity in your will or trust. We're all delighted you're joining us today, and there's some really great takeaways that we hope you'll leave with after this 30-minute webinar. We will answer questions throughout webinar, so please use the chat feature within the application. And if we're pressed for time, maybe we'll take questions at the very end. And if we're unable to address your question, please do contact us and we'll be happy to work with you then. I just want to remind you this is recorded, so you will receive a link to the webinar as well as a PDF document. So take notes as needed, but there's quite a lot of information in here, so you can leave that to us and we'll get it to you at a later time. Well, let's get started. So here's the things that we'll cover today. Many of you know the Community Foundation. Some of you are new to the Community Foundation. So we'll touch on who we are, current estate planning gift laws, the real benefits of including charity in your will or trust. We'll talk about a few case studies. So for those of you, maybe you're looking for particular clients or you as a donor want to know about your particular situation, these may touch on some of those. And why would you choose a community foundation to be involved in all of this, and some tools and resources for the advisors. We're going to go ahead and launch our first poll. I just would like to learn who's on our webinar today. So when you see the window pop up there, we've got options for pretty much anyone who might be interested in this subject. And it looks like there's quite a few estate planning attorneys. We'll give you guys a few more minutes. There's quite a few people on the webinar today. Looks like mostly advisors. We do have some nonprofits out there. Wonderful. So glad that you could join us, and a few individuals as well. So wonderful. So it looks like the majority here are financial and investment planners, with the remainder being estate planning attorneys, and we have some individuals and nonprofits. Wonderful. Thank you so much for answering that first question, and we'll get right into it. So the Community Foundation has been around for nearly 25 years, and we have been administrative partners with professional advisors virtually the whole time, and more so in the last few years. And of course, our mission is to initiate positive change through Long Beach, although we are national in our scope. So we do have local expertise, but we do have the ability to make grants throughout the United States. And that logo that you see on the bottom right hand of your screen, we're very proud of that. That's National Standards Accreditation, which puts us at a level of the highest integrity and processes and procedures in the nation. So people have come to learn that when they work with us. And who we work with, all of the folks listed here and who are on the call today. If you're an estate planning attorney, a tax planner, a lot of conversations to be had about that right now and into the next few years. If you're an individual on this call today, you might fall into one of these buckets, and these are the a lot of folks that we work with that we'll be going through some case studies later just to give you a sense of what might be some good recommendations charity-wise. It's my honor and privilege now to introduce Greg Burnight, who I've known for about 10 years now. He's been an estate planning attorney in the area for over 30 years, and he's very involved in the community as a past president of our local Rotary Club and many other wonderful nonprofits. So he understands not only the legal and policy side of trust and will administration, but also the charitable side. So we are absolutely delighted that he could join us today. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about estate planning and the charity portion of that. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Marcelle. So the first thing we're going to touch on, given the mix of attendees today, this is going to be kind of a 30,000-foot view. Many of the attendees look as though they would be very familiar with living trust. So one of the components I want to touch on is obviously the viability of using a living trust to facilitate charitable giving. The goal in planning work is to assist your clients in facilitating the transfer of their assets, either during lifetime or following their death. And properly funding a trust can be a great vehicle for charitable giving, certainly preferable to doing so only through a will. It's revocable and amendable to your death in a living trust, and there's obviously other forms of irrevocable trusts that come with greater restraint on amendment. But for purposes of today, I just want to highlight the viability and the facility of using a living trust as the mechanism to engage in the charitable giving that you might be interested in doing, or your clients may be interested in doing. Next slide. So current gift and estate tax law. We have an existing estate tax law that sets out exemption levels at 11.58 million per individual this year, scheduled to increase with the CPI adjustment to 11.7 next year. The annual gift exclusion remains at $15,000 per person without triggering gift tax. Your gift and estate tax exemption, as I mentioned, is the 11.58 number. I want to highlight this is a very transitory time relative to the estate tax, because we will have likely changes proposed by a new administration that may be very different than the current framework. One of the other things that we have, the portability, and that's the last bullet point that's going to come up. Portability is a key component of estate tax planning for married couples, and hopefully will be an element that would be preserved irrespective of what changes or updates might come with the existing estate tax structure. So the benefits of including a charity in your will, kind of the obvious one might be the tax planning component, trying to facilitate tax deductions while supporting causes or charities that you feel strongly about. Limiting the estate tax exposure, and then the environment that we may be heading into, that may become a greater motivator for your clients or for donors. Including charitable giving and intention with your children in discussing your estate plan. To the extent you give your children better buy-in and awareness of your charitable bent and those causes that you've supported over the years or intend to support in a testamentary capacity. Legacy planning, in the sense that it gives you an opportunity to expand the reach of your donations over a longer stretch, perhaps even perpetuity, through foundational giving or donor advised funds or other vehicles we'll touch on in a minute. The opportunity to do more with the funds that you intend to give. And obviously this notion of supporting the community in perpetuity, or supporting the organizations that you hold near and dear. Again, as opposed to an outright donation in any one year, the notion of doing it in a testamentary sense gives you the opportunity to stretch and spread that across a greater period of time. So poll time.
That's right. So we like our polls here at the Community Foundation. And so we like to test you early on to see if some of this is sinking in. So we'll go over a few different opportunities here to kind of learn more about this, but just to understand your personal knowledge. If an individual, this is true or false, if an individual does not already have a personal connection to a charity or cause, which, Greg, I think some of our clients are like that. We have people that haven't just really been involved, but does that mean that they should not include charity? I'm happy to see that 94% and growing are saying false. That is false. And that's one of the reasons why trust attorneys and community foundations work together to kind of help those clients along. Because as we do see, and we'll see in some of the examples later, you do have individuals that are heavily involved with nonprofits and causes and the community, but there are some that just simply need some education there and some understanding. And so Greg, you want to talk a little bit about the assets? Some of these are more complicated than others, but we've dealt with them all.
So the key thing is the variety and the breadth of assets that can be passed to a charity. Real estate, stock, beneficiary designations through life insurance or retirement assets. The notion of charitable giving and using appreciated assets to facilitate the giving while limiting your exposure for capital gains. The ability to utilize life insurance or retirement plans to enhance or augment the giving that you already plan on doing or are currently doing. It can be artwork, it can be collectibles, it can be any number of things that can be donated as part of a gift to charity. And if you have questions about that, in the case of the Community Foundation, certainly give them a call. They can walk through the complex gifts with you and help give you an overview of what is and isn't possible. In terms of how to include charity in a trust, you've got options. You can give it as a percentage, you can give it as a specific amount or a specific asset even, or in the form of a residual gift. There are vehicles that facilitate the charitable giving, and I touched on it earlier. Irrevocable trusts, such as a charitable remainder trust. It's designed to reduce your taxable income and serves kind of as a split interest vehicle to allow a payment to a beneficiary with the residual remainder going to the charitable beneficiary. Family foundations can be utilized as a means of creating perpetuity and an ongoing stream of giving, though they do come with an added cost of administration, and they do require the formation of a corporation and the ongoing administration through a board of directors. So there's a fair degree of complexity involved in a family foundation and the necessity to populate a board of directors, not just now, but decades into the future. Charitable gift annuity is another means of passing assets with tax benefit and a method of exploring alternatives to make those charitable gifts in a structured format. Donor advised funds and memorandum of philanthropic intent. Those are two of my personal favorites in regard to allowing your clients to have an active hand in selecting and overseeing those charities or organizations that they want to support, while giving them flexibility about the updating and amendment of those choices over the course of their lifetime, without the need to necessarily amend their trust if they utilize these tools. I know Marcelle's going to talk more about the memorandum of philanthropic intent in a moment.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. And we do have some shared clients there where we're using donor advised funds, we're using the memorandum of philanthropic intent, which I'll talk about. I thought I'd also mention while we're on this slide that on our website, we completed a webinar, and you can watch it there, on family foundations versus donor advised funds, because those are two very helpful tools that you as an advisor might recommend to your client. Some have benefits and impacts that are different than the other, or you might be an individual thinking about whether you should form one or the other. So highly recommend that you watch that, or just contact the community foundation and we can walk you through it as well. The Memorandum of Philanthropic Intent, or MOPI as we call it in the office, is a really wonderful document for individuals and for estate planners to use with their clients, because it's one document. It's between an agreement between the individual donor and the community foundation. And what it does is it clearly defines the charitable wishes of the donor, and it can be used in conjunction with a trust, and it can be updated throughout the donor's lifetime. So you might have a client that wants to change their mind every few years, or maybe as an individual, you really want to be able to have that flexibility to not have to go back and amend your trust, but change or increase or decrease the amount given to a variety of charities over the course of your lifetime. And I do want to accentuate that you can choose many charities. And the way that it works is you put one nonprofit in your trust, and that's the Long Beach Community Foundation. And then how we distribute to many charities is how you defined it within the MOPI. So we take that on, we administer it, we invest the funds. Of course, you can continue to work with your financial advisor to do that as well, and include your family in part of that plan. But it's a wonderful way to have that oversight, have that fiduciary, have that interaction with a community foundation to carry out your wishes on your behalf, to carry out your clients' wishes the ways that they intended them. And so it's a tool that we know that is very much very useful to individuals. And here's what it looks like. It's on our website, and we can also email this out to anybody to take a look at it. And so here, when we talk about charitable gift planning, this is something that I know Greg and I, we talk a lot about. And Greg, do you want to talk, because you've had clients that are trying to identify a charity as part of their estate plan. Do you want to comment on that?
Sure, Marcelle. So one of our roles as an estate planner is, or an advisor in general, is to facilitate our clients' goals and to identify how to solve the circumstances they present to us. It's not our job to push them to an outcome, particularly when it comes to charitable giving. But part of my approach, and I'm sure most of the planners on this call, is to incorporate discussion about charitable giving and charitable intent into the consultation with the clients as we explore what giving they want to do and what they want to have happen by way of distribution of their assets. So identifying charities that the client has been supporting over the years or participated as a board member or otherwise, finding out not just charities that they perhaps support, but perhaps beyond that, who their family, their parents, or their relatives may have been benefited by a certain organization or helped out over time or had an affinity for an organization, all of which can lend to your client or donor perhaps finding it in their hearts to include charity as a component of their own giving.
Yeah, and it's very helpful if you have a client that's unsure about where to give, just really find out a little bit where they're volunteering, or if you're an individual looking to include charity in your trust and you haven't been involved, certainly contact the community foundation, contact your local nonprofit to find out maybe what your where you can be helpful in that, and really learn about the cause and learn about the nonprofit. But if you're working with a client, learn if they've served on nonprofit boards, because that'll be very telling in terms of where their heart lies for charity. And really find out what are their interests. Sometimes people have no involvement with charity whatsoever. They've never given to charity in their life. So the conversations we have with our donors and our clients is, well, what do you like to do? And maybe travel, and maybe art, and maybe the environment. And you kind of dig out and find, through their lifetime, that maybe education was a big part of it. Maybe they received scholarships when they were going through school. So finding those kind of hidden gems of experience can help navigate that conversation, and really kind of pin down on what are some good options. And so just have those conversations, invite those conversations. We do hear from advisors asking us, how do I start that conversation? We have some resource materials around that for you. But really just invite it, maybe bring it up at every meeting that you have, or once a year, maybe talk about charity, download some articles from the Community Foundation, maybe as talking points or points of interest. And here's some of those resource materials here. On the left-hand side, you have a document really that is for advisors to get that charitable conversation going. And on the right, it's a booklet that advisors can give to their clients, or individuals can go through, and helps navigate what their charitable interests might be through question and answers, and just exploring different things that they might be interested in. I'm going to go through a few different types of funds here. And again, this is going to be a PDF document and sent to you later. So feel free just to kind of absorb and sit back. But donor advised funds, you can think of them as a charitable checking account. They're a giving vehicle where you put money in, and then on your own time, you can earn interest income in that, because it is invested, and then donate to charity when the moment strikes you, or when you're asked. Either of those work. A field of interest fund is wonderful for individuals who don't quite know the charities that they want to give to specifically, but they do know their causes. They do know what they're passionate about. And this solidifies that passion, and then allows the Community Foundation to grant out money on their behalf through their trust assets. A designated fund, this is for the very savvy individuals who absolutely know which nonprofits they want to give to. So the designated fund will list those charities, and the Community Foundation will be able to grant to them in perpetuity, especially if it is an endowed gift. There's another opportunity here to give to an unrestricted fund. The Community Foundation has a community impact fund that supports the most pressing needs in Long Beach. So if you have an individual, a client, if you're a donor and you would like to give back in your community around the most important needs, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to give to that and leave the giving to the Community Foundation. I mentioned scholarships a moment ago. That's another offering from the Community Foundation that you don't have to have that necessarily in your will or trust. You can establish all of these today that I've mentioned, but the scholarship fund is another trust asset that can be turned into charity and have the Community Foundation give scholarships on your behalf. So here's some examples, and some of you might relate to them. Here's a family, Lee and Pearl. They're married, and they have 3 children and 3 grandchildren, and they want to leave a legacy, but a lot of their assets or their holdings are tied up in things that are not cash. So they haven't really been giving out a lot of money, but maybe they have a lot of property and other assets, and they really are philanthropic. They want their assets to go to charity, and they want their children involved. So a good option for them would be a donor advised fund. They could name a donor advised fund after their family name, and then they could have their children and eventually their grandchildren give out on behalf of dad and mom or grandma and grandpa. And that's a wonderful way to set it up so that their legacy is lasting forever. We do work with individuals such as Michael. He's single, he has no children. He's been invested in his career, but he has been given opportunities in life. And he would like to make gifts and pay it forward through his trust, but he really is not involved in any particular type of charity and doesn't have a preference. But in talking with him, we learned that he wants to honor his mother and give in the name of arts organization. So a field of interest fund would really work for Michael in this case, because he would be entrusting the community foundation to give to arts organizations in the name of his mother. And we know the community, so we would fulfill those wishes for Michael. With Mary and Jose, they're married with no children in their 60s. And unlike Michael, they are very philanthropic. They've been involved in nonprofits, specifically around supporting homeless shelters, and they want to give to charity, and they've been involved with nonprofit boards. So they're very savvy, involved donors, and they do have a significant amount of wealth in terms of their trust assets. They want to give out maybe $2 million. A designated fund would work for them because they can designate or name those charities in their will or trust, and they can choose that. Here's another married couple who have been in the community a long time. They don't really know a particular charity or cause, but they know their community, in this case, Long Beach. They've been here their entire lives. They love Long Beach, and they want to include charity in their estate, but they're really not sure where and how, but they know about the Community Foundation and the work that we do. And so what would be a good opportunity for them? The Community Impact Fund. They want to give back to their community, and they'll leave that to the Community Foundation to trust whatever the issues are in the next 5 or 10 or 20 or 30, 40, 50 years, and in perpetuity, because that is an endowed fund that we distribute funds from. And why would you choose a community foundation? Well, probably the most important reason is you're trusting another entity to carry out your wishes. We have the local expertise. We have variance power, which means if any of those nonprofits close, or if they stop serving that particular program that you as the donor or your client wants to support, we can quickly swap it out for a like cause, a like organization, or go to a backup plan on behalf of your client. And of course, our experience in the community is very vast, and really you'd work with us because we are a forever entity in the sense that they would leave a lasting legacy. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but we are part of Greater Kansas City Community Foundation, or Greater Horizons. And so we have 4 staff here locally, 60 staff in Greater Kansas City. And so that allows us to really have that breadth of knowledge, but also that extension of services. So really, we hope you take advantage of that. So a few takeaways before we go into questions is if you're a professional advisor, we hope that you can see how you can serve your clients better. And for individuals, we hope that you've seen a few things today that get you thinking about how you can execute your charitable wishes. And of course, contact us with questions. For those of you who are interested in our next webinar, it'll be in January, so after the new year. And this is kind of a deeper dive in just what is a community foundation? And we get that question a lot, and we're a lot of different things. So we really encourage you to sign up for that as well. And here's our website I wanted to mention specifically for the advisors on the Zoom today. If you click the Give Later button on our website, it's going to take you to a whole vast area of resources, which we also have for individuals and professional advisors. So I don't want to discount individuals there. This is really where you can learn more about some of the information that I gave you here today. And for advisors, there's calculators, there's financial information, all sorts of wonderful things that you can calculators and things that you can play with and maybe calculate for your client and read for your client what might work best for them. We also have for estate planners and tax planners and financial advisors, specific area of our website accessible from our homepage. And there's drop-down menus. The memorandum of philanthropic intent is there. All sorts of free resources. Really, we hope that you utilize those and engage with us. And so it is Q&A time, and I do see that a few of you have asked some questions, and so I'm going to dive right in. I see, should I leave a stated amount to charity or leave a percentage? Well, you certainly have both options, but I would call on Greg because he's the one that primarily has that conversation with his clients.
So I think the simple answer to that is, while both are alternatives that are available, the percentage works better. None of us know exactly what we're going to have at the time of our demise. And so when you get around to doing a stated amount, oftentimes that can outweigh or underweight what your actual goal would be as a donor. So a percentage figure gives you the comfort of knowing that whatever that percentage amount is, it'll be applicable across the spectrum of your assets, whether they increase or decrease over the balance of your lifetime.
Very good. Thanks, Greg. This is another one specifically for you. It comes from our friend Curtis Kaiser, and he'd like to know here maybe some ideas around qualified retirement accounts and funding a charitable trust.
So specifically on the qualified charitable distributions, obviously, Curtis undoubtedly is aware of the ability to utilize qualified charitable distributions as a mechanism of giving, both to avoid income taxes, particularly in the time of that you've reached the required minimum distribution stage. And the notion of utilizing either beneficiary designations through qualified plans, as we touched on earlier, is certainly viable as well. I don't know that Curtis's question went beyond that, I guess, about the specifics about a trust.
Well, the qualified retirement accounts, and I'm assuming you might even be talking about charitable IRA distributions and mandatory distributions. We know that those can't go into donor advised funds, but there are other options available for those. One of the things that are, as far as I know, exclusive to community foundations are those field of interest funds or the designated funds. We have even one of the community foundation board members that chooses those mandatory distributions into a designated fund. So he chooses which charities they go to, and that's locked in. And those qualified distributions can go into there. But yeah, I think he's talking about specifically the qualified distributions and maybe the IRA assets going into a charitable trust.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so another question we have is regarding amendments and changes. And so can I change the charitable distributions over time? And I would, Greg and I talk about this often, where it's one of the reasons why it's advantageous for clients to use that memorandum of philanthropic intent, because they can change them over time. And it's important because they can do it without amending their trust. You can do it just directly with the community foundation. And a lot of times the donor just wants to be able to change what they want to change without really, incurring additional cost or merely any notification or anything to the nonprofit. They just want to be able to do that in private with the community foundation. And so, yes, you can change your charitable distributions over time. And do you want to add anything to that, Greg?
No, I think you highlighted why I like the MOPI and the notion of having the ability to change it without the cost of amending your trust and giving you the flexibility to adjust it on the fly. If organizations change their mission, or if your affinity for an organization changes, it's nice to have that ease of adjusting the recipients of the giving.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Greg, so much for joining us and imparting your wisdom. And we appreciate everybody on the call today. We're going to email you a survey. Please do take a few moments just to fill that out for us so we can improve these as we go on. And if we don't hear from you by the end of the year, please do reach out. But if not, have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you all for joining. Thanks, Marcelle.
Thanks, Greg. Bye-bye.